Hello, so not only do I have to make a Yareli video, but hidden inside of the patch notes, and by that I mean just in the patch notes, Yareli got a serious buff. And the reason I'm calling it a buff is because the augment basically fixes a lot of her problems. So Merulina is really good. I don't think that can be really argued. 90% damage reduction on a ability that doesn't have diminishing health like Shadows, and also doesn't have the clunkiness of Shadows, even though I'm not saying that's a bad ability. One that multiplies your damage significantly, CC traps basic enemies, and even some heavy gunners and such like that. Pretty good mobility. Her 3 is pretty good. I don't use it a lot, so I can't speak on how good it is. I know it's good on a lot of melee frames, though, because of the slash procs, and Riptide, which gathers up on a really big range. She just got a buff with her augment. So, first off, Merulina is a pretty big problem. They decided that instead of what they did for Titania, where they kind of fixed the issue of not being able to use abilities inside of Razor Wing, which was a very weird thing for them to allow. On Merulina, you cannot, under any circumstances, use helmet abilities, which is kind of annoying, if I do say. But my hound is just griefing me right now, which is kind of annoying. Very annoying. This mainly sparks from the fact that they just don't want to do an animation for it, but Titania also doesn't do an animation for it, which is my issue with that. However, Merulina is really good because, first off, 90% damage reduction, and with the damage reduction, she has an augment called Merulina Guardian. Other than absorbing all status effects and damage, if hit, and then you use C snares, you will not only heal Merulina, but you will get a, if I stop getting griefed, you will get a 200% fire rate and reload bonus, making Arcane Pistolier literally a top and must pick for her, because this basically gives her, actually no, it objectively does give her infinite ammo. Combine that with the extremely high fire rate weapons. I'm using Protea Prime, but I do have a few other melee, not melee, secondary weapons. Even the Kuva Nukor goes extremely well with her. This is because of her 200% moving critical chance, which absolutely explodes weapons. A funny thing I actually have here, if I switch off of her to Protea, my Twin Grockadas, on its actual build, I moved it over so I would stop griefing myself. Or, oh, I took it off, my bad, has a negative 9.2% critical chance, because I have reload speed, fire rate, and critical damage as my stats. On a lot of frames, that is me literally trolling. On Yareli, however, I have a 15.8%, and that is without the 200% base bonus, because this goes off of base critical chance, not finalized critical chance. So my Twin Grockadas are quite literally really good. Not including CCing, not including infinite ammo, arcane precision, which is really good on her, or anything of that sort, which makes her extremely strong. Especially when stacked, just the amount of damage you can output with these things, and even with air burst rounds, which kind of fixes it. But her main bread and butter, being Merulina, is very difficult because you do lock yourself into this. You also lock yourself out of helmet abilities. The good thing, however, with this patch, they decided to add another augment called Loyal Merulina, which makes it so that you no longer ride her, but instead she follows you around and will cast C snares on nearby enemies. If you have higher efficiency, she casts more often. This is really good. I got a little tistic with the math last night. What the? If used, Merulina will obviously spawn like normal. But I got worried when I saw this augment, because you're not riding Merulina, but your damage is still redirected to her. And because we're not on Merulina, we can use every Helminth ability while still getting the benefits of having the damage reduction from Merulina being 90%. Meaning, you basically get Shadows of the Dead for free with full range of movement as a secondary ability. Ripped Aqua Blades is obviously pretty good, but this makes her extremely good. This is also with the patch that gave Umbra the disable sentience, so I'm pretty sure this was in the works anyway, because one of the biggest problem with Merulina is that Merulina is extremely buggy, which is not fun and does quite often. I've played a lot of Yareli actually. It does quite often cause an issue. The good thing about Loreal Merulina though is since it's casting Sea Snares, we're obviously running a high strength build with a decent efficiency. That also does mean we cannot equip Merulina Guardian, which I thought we could. Unfortunately, we can't. But because it's using Sea Snares and we're getting the Sea Snare damage bonus for free, notably it does not use energy past initial cast, we can subsume her one for something like Eclipse or Airburst rounds, which means she absolutely cranks damage for no cost. You still have full range of movement, and because it's a pet, it will just follow you around and teleport to you if need be. As far as I know, because of how aggressively they changed companions teleporting to you and stuff, you will never be without the damage reduction. Which means she is now a fantastic secondary weapons platform. For every weapon you can get your hands on that you think would be good with her now. Especially with Eclipse being more consistent due to it being reworked recently. That's not Eclipse, or that's not Kuva Nukor. We just kind of, you know, we just kind of go. We kind of get some kills here. Yeah, they just massively buffed her with this augment. It makes her extremely, extremely good. Especially because your one is no longer bound to being your main damage thing. Merulina just spams this out. It is affected by efficiency, so that is good to note. But if we lower duration, which isn't very important on her anyway because of how Merulina works, Merulina doesn't go away. We can have her up constantly, plus damage you're taking is still confirmed to her, which makes it extremely easy to pretty much just cheese out one of your abilities. One ability becoming two is extremely good. Obviously, a lot of people aren't happy with Yareli because of her, quite frankly, bugginess and the fact that you had to run Merulina because it's your damage reduction, but now not being able to have to stand on it makes her extremely good in a lot of scenarios. Plus, you can run Adaptation. Adaptation is actually one of my preferred perks. Abilities on her. I'm not running it on her right now because I have my shields, but you can run Adaptation and it does stack loosely, obviously not fully. You'll never hit 100%, which just makes Merulina last forever. Like, genuinely, they gave her a lot. This is... How many times has it been now? It's been a while now that they've been giving Yareli different abilities and stuff like that to just buff her. And this is probably not the biggest one because Merulina Guardian is objectively super, super strong regardless. But this is probably one of the strongest buffs they could have given her, is not having to ride Merulina anymore. And I am all down for this because this makes her extremely, extremely dependent on herself. And also, come on, having free range of movement on a Warframe is what this game's entire, like, thesis is. Like, the full cool tricks, swinging around stuff, and all that kind of stuff. Merulina tied you down, especially because most maps weren't designed for her. Now, being able to have all of the benefits of Merulina and more, it makes Yareli extremely strong. So, yeah. There's still a ton of stuff I can talk about, like different weapon platforms and like the fact that the Kuva Nukor is extremely abusable on her, because first off, it has at base, I messed this up last time I was talking about, a 5% or 5 times critical multiplier If you just run Frostbite, Pathogen rounds, Hornet Strike, Diffusion, Lethal Turret, Galvanized Shot, I don't have leveled up all the way, Target Cracker Primed Heated Charge, 8 times, pretty decent, not anything to scoff at, 1.1k, multiply that by 8, and then guarantee nearly every time yellow crits with Galvanized Shot and Diffusion just stacking up higher damage. Cascadia Flare works extremely good because it's 10% additive damage. Where can you go wrong? You could even trade out Cascadia Flare for like secondary Merciless, which this would just destroy content too. Yareli's really good. She's super underpicked, even though honestly every update I see Yareli like mentioned, it's always a direct buff. The only thing they could do for her now is make it so that on Merulina you can cast abilities. That's literally all they would have to do, and she would be actually an S tier frame, even more than she already is. Just people need to pick her up more because she's absolutely nuts. So pick her up, try her. If you don't like her, fair enough. If you don't like her aesthetics, cringe. If you don't like the playstyle, completely understandable. It's a pretty weird playstyle to use a secondary weapon as their primary weapon, but a ton of the secondary weapons I run, Nucor, Piranha, Twin Grocadas, even the Acarius is super good. Axamati's really good. Euphona, you could even modify your Latum to crush things with her. Obviously this removes the entire fact that it has a 20 times on non-critical damage. But whatever. She can still use it extremely well. Honestly, such a good weapons platform that's kind of flown under the radar because they just kind of messed up her launch, and then she's still buggy, so you gotta look past that as well. But Loyal Merulina dropping just literally out of the blue, so fun. It's so good. I was testing it on launch because I remembered it came out, and I was looking at it, and I'm honestly impressed that we got another augment for her that makes her even stronger.